Hola Madridistas. Welcome to our preview as we host Napoli once again at the Bernabeu. We have a very special guest today, none other than the host of Napoli Rant, which is like the best English fan-run podcast for Napoli. So, how are you doing, man, Raffaele? Are you excited to get revenge against us this time?
I'm very excited. I'm just as excited as the intro you gave me. Thank you very much. I appreciate you calling us the best English language podcast for Napoli. But I'm so excited for tomorrow. We're recording on Tuesday, so very excited for the Champions League overall all the time. But when we play big teams like such as Liverpool or in this case Real Madrid. You get it's a different excitement, it's a different feel, even for Napoli, who made a name for themselves. We still kind of regard ourselves as a smaller club, as a a club on the rise, but very small. So when the bigs come around and when we go to the big stadiums like the Bernabeu, it's very exciting. So I can't wait.
You see how Rafael was like diplomatic. He didn't mention Barcelona among the big clubs.
Well, so I'm a barber in New York, and my one of my barbers, our partner at the barber shop, he's a huge Barcelona fan. He's turned Napoli fan as well. So I kind of like to not think about playing against each other because then there's a war in the shop and we have to shut down for days. So
Yeah, do you mean a literal war? Is that actual violence going on?
what's that?
Is that
Yeah,
yeah?
exactly. Right. It wouldn't be football if there wasn't a little violence somewhere, right?
Absolutely. And how about you guys, Farouk and Mo? I'll come to you, Mo, first. How's it going? It's early in
Yeah,
the
I
morning for
mean,
you. Still, are you awake?
yeah, I couldn't miss this opportunity to talk to Farouk. Farouk's greatness always rubs on me, so I'm here just to be, odd. And
That's
especially Osimhen is coming into town, so his boy.
Ah,
that's the thing, Jacob. You should watch and learn. When you said we have a very special guest, I thought you were referring to me, but apparently you're referring to Rafael. Man, come on, bro. We've been doing this for how long, man?
Come on, man. When it's just us together, I always give you a good intro.
Yeah, man, you should do it more publicly, man. It should have been something done in private. Everyone should be able to understand, the presence and the essence. Yeah, well, anyways, jokes apart, man. Yeah, it's so good, to be here, and yeah, it's a huge welcome to Rafael. And as Mo was saying, it's it's exciting, to see Osimhen finally come to the Bernabeu. Hopefully, he can get to play at least, to also experience the atmosphere there.
100%.
If it were up to Farouk, Osimhen wouldn't leave. So just be careful, Rafael.
yes. Needs to be very careful. I'm actually really glad that he was fit and able to play. It was getting a little stressful. He's been out for a little while with an injury to his leg and without really any updates on his timeline to come back. And then just before the international break was over, it was deemed that he would be ready, and got a few minutes against Atalanta over the weekend, made an impact, looked fine, didn't wear his mask, which everybody was really worried about. That trademark mask is the first game since his injury that he hasn't worn the mask. So, Napoli fans, how I'm not sure if you know, but Neapolitans are the most superstitious people on planet Earth. So when he came out without the mask on, people started freaking out, and but it worked out. He got a key assist to the match winner against Atalanta for Elmas, and very unselfish play, and he's back, and I think he'll be starting, against Real Madrid. If not, he'll get some really good minutes towards the end, but I'm pretty sure he's very excited about that.
You know what? I actually realized I've never seen Osman without the mask. So I don't know what he looks like exactly. I've only seen him with his
It's
mask.
become a trademark. I mean, if you go to Naples and you walk the streets, the vendors are selling his mask. That they've made little masks for kids to wear and even some adults. And they'll put the Scudetto, which is the Italian championship badge, on it, and with VO9 in blue, and they're selling out on the streets of Naples. So everyone's walking around with an Osimhen mask. It's very strange to see him without it. But I guess he feels he doesn't need it anymore. I guess he's ready to move on from the mask, right?
When you said some adults chose to wear the Osimhen mask, do you mean you? Do you have a mask with you?
I purchased one for my children. I didn't buy one for myself, although I wear these glasses, so I don't know how it would have worked for me. But yeah, I got a couple for the kids for sure. They have it. They don't really wear it too much. They love Osimhen, but they kind of just display it on their wall. So,
It's a pretty cool mask,
but it's a
almost like Batman.
marketing genius. Hey, very cool, very cool, very cool. He's become almost a superhero for Napoli with that mask on.
You know what? Let's before we head into the nitty-gritties of the preview, I'm sure all of our listeners would love to hear a bit more about Napoli Rant and your journey, Raffaele, and how you became a Napoli fan.
So, like a lot of Napoli fans you might come across, I was born into it. My father is from Napoli, the city of Napoli. He's not from a town around the corner. He's not from the outskirts. He's from Naples. He was born and raised in Naples. He grew up right at the train station, the central train station in Naples, and he is born and bred. And we have such deep roots there. My parents came here to the States in 1973. I was born 10 years later, so unfortunately I was born here, but uh, he never lost his love for Napoli despite being very difficult to follow them in the States, especially back in the 70s and 80s, right? Luckily enough, they moved to New York City where it was very Italian American, very Southern Italian influence down there. A lot of people migrated to that area, and thus creating a need for an Italian television station and accessibility to an Italian radio. It was really weird how, and I still don't know how they did it, but you bought this like one wooden box. It was a radio that only got the Italian Rai. I'm sure you guys are familiar with Rai, the biggest Italian broadcaster, in Italy. Rai had a radio station that was able to be transmitted to New York or America if you had this one, box radio. So my dad would listen to the matches, and then the TV station was formed and was broadcasted through a local New York TV station, and where you would get like a movie and the news every night at a certain point in America, well, in New York, and then on Sundays you would be able to watch one Serie A match on a Sunday, usually on delay. And then there was a program called Novantesimo Minuto, which means 90th minute, which showed all of the highlights to all the games in Serie A from that day. Back then, it was only played Sundays at 3 p.m., Italian time. So that's how we were able to follow Napoli, especially in the days of Maradona. So I'm 40 years old. I was born in 83. So in 1986, 87, I vaguely remember the first Scudetto, but I definitely remember more the Coppa UEFA and the second Scudetto. I definitely remember Diego Maradona beating Milan. Milan were our biggest rivals at the time. And, I grew up as a Napoli fan. When Maradona left and Napoli was, sort of not as good anymore, when they were they would become mid-table without Maradona and then eventually go down to Serie B, and eventually with bankruptcy, it was harder to follow because at that time it was almost impossible to watch Serie B. So it's like you go from it being impossible to watch Italian football to being able to watch Maradona and Napoli in their glory years, and then not able to watch them again because they've been relegated and they're bankrupt and all that. So as I grew up, I was able to like read newspapers. When the internet started to form, I was able to like follow through the internet. But a lot of times, I would just have to like, read results from a TV screen or follow like a text update, so to speak, on matches. It was very difficult to follow. But I stayed true. You know, I every year I would pick a Serie A team to follow because that's what we were given here in America. We were only able to watch Serie A. So I'd pick one every year based on like transfers and who you know who is where, my favorite Italian players or what have you. But I never lost my love for Napoli, and when they came back up, it was just one of the greatest feelings ever. So, yeah, I've been a Napoli fan since birth, and I'm glad to see a lot of the younger generation being able to get into Napoli. Not a lot of people not even having roots in Naples, but you know, appreciating their play, appreciating the players that have come in, like Mertens, Koulibaly, Insigne, Cavani earlier than that, Higuain, um, Mark Hamsik, right? And people playing FIFA, liking how they play on FIFA, liking how you know they move on the video games and stuff like that. So a lot of the younger generation have more of a reason to follow than just being from Naples, and I love to hear stories like that. But mine is simply cut and dry. I'm born and bred into it, so it's a passion that's unmatched for me in any other. Like I always often say, every sport, every team could like crumble at the feet as long as we have football in Napoli. I'm good.
I'm surprised you actually took Higuain's name. So there's that.
I mean, listen, as much as I can't stand Higuain at all, you can't deny what he did do for the team. I mean, he scored a lot of goals, and you know, tied the season. I think he actually broke the season record for goals scored that was set back in the 1950s. So I think it was Gunnar Nordahl who had like 35. So Higuain set the record with 36, and by doing so, a hat trick at the Maradona, which was a Sao Paulo at the time, in the pouring rain, and it was a match that I was at. So you know, I have to appreciate that at least. And the way he left for Juventus really, really like left a sour taste in my mouth, and I can't stand him personally. But on the pitch, he did his thing. It was one of those things where if he had stayed on the team, I truly believe Napoli would have won a few championships if he had stayed on the team. I feel the same way about Cavani and how he left. And when he left, like one more season, Cavani would have won a title. So it was always for us, it was always that almost, you know, we would get to that threshold and then we thought maybe we hit the ceiling with this team and this president. So you can imagine my elation when last season we won the Scudetto, and you know, with essentially no names, nobody, you know, new faces, Kim and Jay, Kvaratskhelia, you know, Victor Osimhen had emerged from out of nowhere almost, and you know, just players that were hungry to win, and a manager that really needed his moment to shine as well. And I'm proud to say that I was able to be in Naples for the trophy lift at the Stadio Maradona for the last game of the season. It was just an incredible moment that I'll never forget.
Sounds like a great time. But before you actually started the podcast with Napoli Rant, you were working with Far From Vesuvius, and how did that start out?
Yes, so Far From Vesuvius is it still exists today, and I am actually president. I kind of dubbed myself president of Far From Vesuvius. A bunch of my friends and I that I've met online, you know, throughout the States and Canada, we started this podcast called Far From Vesuvius. It stemmed from a podcast that used to be called Sempre. Um, and the people who created Sempre asked me to join. Actually, it's funny that I'm here with you guys because it feels like a full circle moment. I was asked to join the Sempre crew right after Napoli were drawn with Real Madrid in the round of 16 of the Champions League when we last played. It was like we drew Real Madrid. I bitched and moaned and complained online, and then these people came to me and said, you know, we need someone with your passion. Do you want to join our podcast. So I did. And so it was right there. That's when the last time we played was when I joined that podcast. They since stepped away, and a few other people joined the podcast. So we just decided to take that and make a change, revolutionize it. So we named it Far From Vesuvius. We were doing really well up until COVID hit. But as members of Far From Vesuvius, we were able to go watch Napoli play Barcelona. Actually, when they came to the States, they came to Detroit. Actually, they came to Ann Arbor, Michigan.
Yeah, the
And
biggest stadium.
do you remember that? Yeah.
Yeah.
And then they played in Miami before that. But we were able to attend the Big House in Ann Arbor, Michigan, as members of the press, invited by Napoli at the club. So that was one of our that was like our highest achievement. That was our crowning moment. We got to watch practice. We got to be in the press conference asking questions. I asked Ancelotti a question and Insigne. I did it in Italian, so I was very proud of that. We got to watch the first half from the press box, and then we ended up joining the fans for the second half. We lost miserably, but it doesn't matter. It's preseason. We had a great time. We met a lot of people, a lot of different clubs developed from that meeting, from meeting these people. It was a big gathering, and it was wonderful. That was our crowning achievement. And then for Far From Vesuvius, once COVID hit, it kind of went downhill. A lot of the guys just kind of, I don't want to say gave up, but it went stale. It went a little stale. So what I did was start the Napoli rant with my co-host Ralph Bizarro, and another one of our members ended up starting another podcast called In the Shadow of Vesuvio. And we decided to continue to put the audio onto the Far From Vesuvius platform. So now we've kind of created a network. So now what we're doing is at a current time, we're trying to pull other, maybe other people who want to start podcasts about Napoli, try to get some diverse topics in, and start a range of podcasts under this umbrella at the Far From Vesuvius network. So I'm still involved. I'm still really passionate about it. And it's just, it's been such a great time in my life. It's been a great outlet, and it's been a great way to meet people from other communities such as yourselves. I've been on shows for Liverpool. I've been on shows for Frankfurt. I've been on different shows for different teams in Serie A, different Serie A platforms. And it just is something that really I hold dear to my heart, doing stuff like this, as I'm sure you guys do too. I'm sure the passion that you have for Real Madrid and for football is what makes you keep doing this.
See, and more like you were mentioning, you actually heard or read a few articles from Far From Vesuvius before we actually
No,
filmed this
actually,
podcast.
I had seen their stuff before on Twitter. Because when we drew Napoli, I was looking at it, because whenever we draw on a team, I kind of look up and see what the team is doing about it, because
Sure.
you don't really get the
Absolutely.
chance to watch everybody. So you're just trying to find out who, apart from the traditional media, you're looking for some, other non-traditional media, so to speak, to understand what the fans are feeling about. So that's how I came across their stuff. I know one guy who happens to be doing one of these non-traditional media things, and he used to follow these guys. So that's how I came to know about that.
That's great. That's great. Yeah, and I feel the same way. You want to go to the fans. You want to go to people who are, who are passionate about this club, and who feel because you get a different aspect of it. If you're going to listen to somebody or read something from somebody that's in the business, that has ties to the business, you're going to get the politically correct, if that's the correct term for it, but you're going to get the watered down version of things. Sometimes you want to hear from the fans. You want to hear from the people that are on the streets, that are talking to each other, that have opinions, that whether they be different or the same, and that's how you want to get your sources. You want to get the feelings from the fans. And sometimes the fans could be a little ridiculous and out there, but at least that it's coming from a place of feeling, instead of just some sort of a robot typing something, or talking about stuff that they're not, maybe they're passionate about football, but when you have a specific team in mind, you want to get to the podcasts. And I do that all the time myself. I actually had a guy that I talked to with an Ajax podcast that lived in Naples for years. So we ended up started talking about Ruud Krol and how we appreciated each other's football. We still talk today. And you build a community. You build it becomes and you become comfortable to banter back and forth as well, right? It's healthy. It's healthy for this sport, for communities to come together in a positive way like this through social media, through podcasting and video, shows basically.
Exactly, well said. Now that you've said it, I'm really looking forward to, the a politically incorrect version of this preview.
Yeah. I'll try to keep it. I have passion, so I tend to veer off from the politically correctness. So this will be interesting.
Yeah. Speaking about which, let's get into the preview. So Napoli right now in the league, not exactly doing really bad, but then you guys are 8 points off of Inter, if I'm reading that correctly, and fourth in the league. Not too bad. You can still play catch up, and you've just changed coach. So what's the exact feeling around it? Do you actually think you're gonna miss Rudy Garcia at all?
No, absolutely not. As a matter of fact, quite the opposite. I know a lot of fans and I'm never happy for a loss. Trust me. I never want to experience loss. I hate losing. When Napoli lose, I'm depressed for a week. So you can imagine how bad it was where we lost to Empoli, a team that only had at the time 3 goals scored. Somehow they managed 2 wins in the season and a draw, but from 3 goals scored in 11 matches. And they beat us 1-0 with a stoppage time goal. But normally, and right before the international break. So instead of being depressed for 1 week, I had to live with it through 2 weeks. However, it was a blessing in disguise because that was the game that Rudy Garcia needed to win to keep his job, and nobody wanted him to stay here. So there was more joy from that loss, knowing that Rudy Garcia was going to leave. He was terrible. He completely took the machine that Spalletti built and serviced for 2 years and turned into champions, and he completely disregarded it. He didn't even say Spalletti's name once as a manager of Napoli in a press conference. All he did was his philosophy, and that's what most managers do, right? They come into a club and they'll put their philosophy, their gameplay, their style to play, or at least a decent manager would recognize what was working before and maybe try to integrate his beliefs and system while making sure that the players are still comfortable playing in the old system. And not for nothing, Carlo Ancelotti at Napoli, in my opinion, was an unmitigated failure. It was a disaster. Not that Ancelotti is a failure. Obviously, Ancelotti is one of the greatest managers alive. But what he did that worked in the first season, because we had a great first season with Ancelotti, it wasn't until the second season, was when Maurizio Sarri left. He implemented Sarri's game for the first half of the season, and Napoli did great. They were in second, neck and neck with Juventus. It wasn't until the winter where Ancelotti started implementing his own, tactics, and that's where the players kind of, veered off a little bit. I don't think Napoli ever had Ancelotti type players, but at least Ancelotti had the wherewithal to say, okay, this is how Maurizio Sarri played. This is how we're going to play. We're going to sort of do a hybrid, and then we'll go to my system. Rudy Garcia came in and just said, you know what? Never mind what we did last year. This is what we're doing, and this is how we're doing it. And he managed to really sink the ship, all while playing the same system that Luciano Spalletti plays. He plays in the exact same formation. He plays in the exact same system, attacking football. wing backs coming up and down. But for some reason, he just didn't have the wherewithal to manage the team the way Spalletti did. He made ridiculous in-game changes, like subbing off Kvaratskhelia with 5 minutes left after we've been down to Genoa 2-0. We came back to get it to 2-2, and we needed a goal to win, so he takes out Kvaratskhelia. Subbing out Osimhen when we needed a goal, when we were behind. Subbing out Politano, who's been Napoli's best player this season so far. And making really bad in-game changes, not using Elmas off the bench when last season he was the highest goal scorer in the league off the bench. And all of that happened with Rudy Garcia, and he was under the gun, right? When Napoli won with Rudy Garcia, it was despite Rudy Garcia, and it was all down to how the players played last season, and they took charge in the game and did their own thing. And the straw that broke the camel's back for the manager was that game against Empoli, where it was a must win for him, and he left Kvaratskhelia and Piotr Zielinski on the bench. Why? So that they can get rest before the international break when they go off to their nations. Like, do you understand? Like, if Ancelotti rested Bellingham and Rodrigo and Vinicius, if he was healthy, if Ancelotti made that decision to rest these guys, and the reason he gave was so that they can rest before the international break in a game that he must win, like, it left everybody scratching their heads, and that was it. He was gone, and now Walter Mazzarri came in, and people were very nervous about that. But it's for me, it was a breath of fresh air that what was old is new again. He used to manage us back in the early 2000s, 2010s, and a lot of people were worried about his methods and his formation, but he came out, and in his first press conference, he stated clearly, "I will be playing Spalletti's form. I will be playing his formation and his tactics. I've studied Spalletti, and we win. We win against Atalanta." And things that Rudy Garcia never did once in his tenure with Napoli, Mazzarri did against Atalanta, and we pulled off a win. So, I'm very happy that Rudy Garcia is gone, and I hope I never see his face again. Honestly, he shouldn't be managing a football club, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Something you said really caught my eye. You said Ancelotti had tactics. Some people in our podcast, Farouk, think that Ancelotti has no tactics. But like, honestly, I have one question. Like, now you're saying that Mazzarri is back and he's gonna go back to what Spalletti used to do. So like, how do you expect the game to be different? Like, from the the first time we came to Naples, we won 3-2. So how do you expect this game to be different, especially given that I think Napoli has some injuries. Oliveira is probably out, and
Yes.
I think you're even missing Mario Rui, so you don't really have a
Yes.
left back. So how are you guys going to line up? Is it going to be Juan Jesus at left back, or
Yeah, I think it's going to be Juan Jesus at left back. He played with Mazzarri at Inter when Mazzarri left Napoli in 2013. He had Juan Jesus with him there. Juan Jesus has played left back before, so I think the smartest decision would be to play Juan Jesus. There is a rumor that Zanoli, our backup right back, that Walter Mazzarri really, really likes him. Like, of all the players that he was able to train with while everybody was away on international break, he got to know the players there. He said that Zanoli is one of his favorites. And the idea was to either move Di Lorenzo over to the left and play Zanoli at right back, or just have Zanoli start at the left back position. But I honestly think it'll be Juan Jesus because, like I said, he's got the experience, and Mazzarri knows him from when he was with Inter. Now, as far as how we'll play, see, here's the thing: you guys, when you guys came to Naples, you saw a Napoli that did not fit the description that I just outlined for Rudy Garcia. That was during a stretch of games where Napoli really turned it up. They beat Udinese 4-0. They beat another team, I forgot who, 4-1. I think it was Lecce. Yeah, they beat Lecce 4-1. And they did it convincingly, and they did it in a style where we thought, okay, Garcia is letting them play their game now, right? We had just lost 2 games. We lost the game against Lazio, and we lost the game against Fiorentina. So already we were at half the losses that we had lost last season, half the amount. So I think when we came back from that break, I want to say that we all hoped that it was Garcia that let the team just play their game, right? And didn't really rock the boat. But then the game after our second big win was Real Madrid. And even though we lost 3-2, we were very proud of the team. Like, the team really did a good job against Real Madrid. I think, Napoli played great. I think besides 20 minutes in the first half, I think it was at the end of the first half, Napoli really controlled the tempo. They played their game. They got themselves a penalty. They had a really nice goal to open up. They gave up goals, but it's Real Madrid. We expected to give up goals against Real Madrid, but in my opinion, the game could have ended 2-2 if it wasn't for Valverde's 98-mile-an-hour fastball, where Meret just couldn't control, and a lot of people were very critical of Alex Meret for that. But that's Valverde and the shot that he takes. Like, that's the quality that he provides. So there was no shame on my end anyway, and on a lot of fans' end, for Napoli to lose that game against Real Madrid 3-2. I thought it was a very well played game, and here we were, like, okay, Napoli's back. We can accept the loss to Real Madrid. It's them. But then we went right back to playing the way we did. So what you saw from Napoli was not the Napoli it wasn't the real Napoli under Garcia. So now hopefully we can see the real Napoli again at the Bernabeu. And I'm expecting Napoli just to play their game, to play the game that they know how to play, the game that won them the championship last season, and the game that got them to the quarterfinals of the Champions League last season. And, should have beat Milan, in my opinion, could have gone to the final and beaten Manchester City, in my opinion. That's no bias. I've heard fans of other teams, even in person at my shop, come in and say, my goodness, if it was Napoli in that final, Manchester City, because Inter really played them off the park for a long time in that game. And if it was Napoli, they think that we could have won the Champions League, which is crazy to me. But so what to expect is just passion, desire, and to play their game, to find Osimhen, to get Kvaratskhelia double teamed so someone else can get open, and to play the way that they know how to play.
So, do you guys have any special plans for Bellingham? Because that was a major undoing from last time.
Yeah, I don't know, man. Bellingham is see, for me, as long as Bellingham's on the pitch, we've got a problem. He's hands down, in my opinion, the best player in the world right now. Better than Haaland, better than Osimhen. In my opinion, he's the best player in the world. So do we have a plan to take him out? I mean, hopefully we can stick like Natan, because Natan actually has been a really good revelation for us in center back, the replacement for Kim Min-jae. He's been doing outstanding, in my opinion. Give him another 2-3 seasons, and he'll be world class. So hopefully we can contain him through there. The midfield, I think, might have a tough time containing him. If I would say stick on Gisa on him. Because we need a little bit of physicality with him, but it's hard to say what we're going to do against Bellingham, because he no matter what you do, I feel he's gonna come out on top. So that's my opinion on that.
Okay.
Rafael, I have a question actually, like Napoli related, before we go on into the game. Actually, like you gave us a very good breakdown of the whole team with Rudy Garcia and the return of Walter Mazzarri and all that. But actually, one curious thing I was seeing in the summer was that Napoli, we're constantly being linked with, like with, let's say, box office coaches. Either it's, what's it called, Antonio Conte, or like, the head coach of Paris right now, Luis Enrique and stuff like that. I was actually thinking like Napoli has a very young squad. Like Italy literally right now is boasting a lot of young coaches. Like, I mean, you can think of Italiano in Florence, or, what's he called, the guy from Bologna, Thiago Motta, or even from Monza or Paladini, I was wondering, like, why isn't Napoli looking in that direction of people who have actually, okay, I wouldn't say like they're in the same level as the Brighton coach or something like that, but like these are people that at least are a step below, at least in the Italian atmosphere. Like, why isn't Napoli looking towards that? You have a very exciting team, and these are coaches that basically, I think Monza finished 8th or 7th last year. They punched above, they superseded all expectations. Like, I was wondering, like, why do you think like Napoli is still trying to, as you said, the old is new again and stuff like that? Like, why not just totally like build something from scratch as a whole new project?
So what I can say about that is Napoli did try to go after these managers in the summer. When Luis Enrique didn't work out, I think a plan B was supposed to be Vincenzo Italiano. And he didn't want to go back on his contract. I think Italiano had one more season left, which is this season with Fiorentina. He was committed to the project, and he turned Napoli down, just to kind of, sum it up. But I would absolutely love to have Thiago Motta in as our manager, more so than Italiano, because look what he's doing with Bologna. They sit joint fifth right now with Roma. That team is incredible. It's unbelievable to watch what those players can do, and there's not a superstar on that team, But I agree with you, Farouk, and I think that so here's the deal: Walter Mazzarri is the Band-Aid for Rudy Garcia, and he knows it and he accepts it. The deal is until June. He's getting €1 million for it, and he knows that there may not be an extension involved, or an offer to re-sign. He knows what he's there to do. He knows he's there for a short term. If Napoli were to somehow come back, or we've already under one match with him, we've already gained 2 points on the league leaders. If he were to come back and win something, I would 100% expect there to be an offer there. However, the way the president works, I think he would lowball his offer in order to get the manager that he wants. And I think that it is one of Italiano or Thiago Motta. And I do for a fact think that I'm hot and cold on Antonio Conte. I really would have liked Luis Enrique, but then I stopped to think these managers that have managed these big teams to, glory, like Enrique with Barcelona, like Zidane with Real Madrid, even to an extent with Ancelotti. I think Ancelotti needs to have a certain type of player, on his roster. I think he knows how to manage men, but a certain type of men, a superstar level player, that I really feel like this is why he went back to Real Madrid. And I really feel like that's why he's being linked with the Brazil national team as well. He knows how to manage these players that are upper echelon. Whereas when you start to get to here, we've seen it with Napoli and Everton. It hasn't really worked out. So I don't know that Luis Enrique would have been the right man for the job, even though everybody wanted him because of Barcelona in 2009 and this and that, or not 2009, but he coached Barcelona anyway. So in my opinion, the only way to go is to get one of these young, hipster-like, revolutionary coaches, where Luis Enrique, Thiago Motta had a PSG youth system playing with, like, I think he said he played with a 7-2-1 or so, or 2-7-1 or something. Yeah, the 1-2-7. But it's working. Look at what they're doing at Bologna, right? If you guys actually stop to watch a Bologna match, Farouk, I'm sure you have.
I actually saw Bologna live twice, man. Like, you're totally right. I saw the game against Inter at the San Siro. Like, it was a really, really, like, it was a checkmate against Inzaghi, who I consider to be, like, one level above everyone in Italy, honestly. Like,
exactly. They gave Inter their only loss, right, this season so far. And it's funny because actually last season when I went for the finale, for the Napoli finale, I also went to Bologna, Napoli. So I went. We took the train up to Bologna. I visited the Dalata, beautiful stadium, great people actually, and I sat at Bologna, Napoli 2-2. We went up 2 goals. Osimhen, we went 2-0 up. They came back and tied it 2-2 and could have had the winner. The winner was called off, but we were already champions at the time. It was the penultimate game of the season. I could argue that our foot was off our foot was on the brake heavily, but still, what a team to play, man. Every time that kid Xerxes too, he's something else. I love that. He's from the Bayern Munich system.
He's American, right? I think, or no?
I don't. He may have some American in him. I'm not 100% sure where he's from. No, because the people here would be like frothing at the mouth over him if he was American. He's not American. But Bologna have a really good side, and it's all down to Thiago Motta in my opinion, because you don't have who do you have? Orsolini, who comes onto the national team every now and then. You don't have a big player on Bologna. They just work together very hard. So in my opinion, we need to get a coach like that. But the thing is that we did try. That's after Luis Enrique didn't work out, and then other managers that we were after didn't work out. We tried to go after someone like that, and it didn't happen. And it sucks to say this, but but Rudy Garcia was like 5th, 6th, like plan F. He wasn't really on our radar. So when he was appointed the manager, it was it was quite the shock to me, and it was very underwhelming. It was an underwhelming shock. But yeah, that's the way to go, man. Especially with a team like this, like you said, young players, developing but good, hanging around top 4, won the Scudetto last season. That's the way to go for sure.
Let's just read a couple of comments before we head into the elephant of the room, as we discussed before. So, Tas Aliba is here. He says, "How's my guy, the Brazilian Rashford, doing?" So he means Rodrigo. So we're sure that he's actually fit, right?
Brazilian Rashford, that's the first one.
The Brazilian Rafa, he called?
Rashford.
Oh, Rashford. Oh my gosh. Rodrigo.
I mean, it's an insult to Rodrigo, but yeah, whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
I think Rodrigo has achieved a lot more in his short career than Rashford has, in his entire career. So, if anything, I mean, Rashford should be the English Rodrigo or anything.
The English Rodrigo.
But I think, he has some knee issues, but he's probably going to play because, we don't really have anybody else. Raheem is just coming back from, he didn't train yesterday. He trained today. So, I don't really know. I probably expect Rodrigo to start tomorrow.
Yeah. So, and Sunil is also in the chat. He says he used to love watching Thiago Motta as a player. So good to see him breaking new ground.
I mean, Sunil is probably Rafa's big fan, because he said Bellingham is the best player in the world.
Oh yeah.
So.
Listen, I'm not one to praise English talent. I'm not. Trust me. I think almost every English player is overrated. That's my opinion. But Jude Bellingham is a real freaking deal, man. I'm telling you, I'm not ashamed to say that at all. Like, obviously Harry Kane can score goals. I thought he was a little, talked about a little bit too much for no reason. Looks like he's doing great in Germany. I can't stand what's his name, the English defender for United. What's his name? Oh my gosh,
Harry Maguire.
Maguire is the most overrated player on planet Earth. Now I think he's properly rated because people see through his BS. But in my opinion, I'm not gonna diss too much now because they beat Italy twice. They're the first team to ever beat Italy twice in the same qualifying campaign, which is pretty crazy. But in my opinion, Jude Bellingham, I would have him on my team over almost anybody in the world right now. Like if you were to tell me, hey, let's get rid of Zielinski and put Bellingham there, let's go. Let's do it.
Wait, how about Osimhen? Would you get rid of Osimhen for Bellingham?
Who would I get rid of Osimhen for? Not a lot of Haaland. See, and here's my thing, and I know you're going to ask me what the transfer rumors about Osimhen. I will not be shocked if Osimhen is transferred at the end of the season. I will not be shocked at all, because to me it was always going to happen. He was going to come here for 3 seasons, do his thing, and leave, whether he wins a title or not. I'm really, really happy that he brought us a title, unlike Cavani, unlike Higuain, unlike Milik. He was brought. He was Milik. That was a joke. He was brought in, and he won the Scudetto. And I honestly thought that that he was going to go in the summer, this past summer, and I really thought it was going to be Bayern Munich. Munich or United, but I thought it was going to be Munich. He has family in Germany. He's got a lot of German ties. I thought it was Munich, and then they got Kane, and then I thought he was off to Saudi Arabia because they gave him they offered him an astronomical amount of money. They offered Napoli an astronomical amount of money, and to my surprise, both parties turned down Saudi Arabia, and he stayed, and I really admire him for that, even more now than after he won the Scudetto. He stayed with us. He's endured a lot of stuff this season, personally and professionally, with Napoli. And I felt for him big time when he did. But even after all that, he goes on John Obi Mikel's podcast and he praises the team still. He praises even the ex-manager, all his teammates. And, there's a lot of heavy rumor that Chelsea are trying to court him for January. And I don't think you get a guy like that in January. You're not going to pry him off of our hands in January. If he's going to go to Chelsea, it'll be in the off season for sure, in the summertime. Plus, I don't think January is the time to buy an African player that's gone to the African Cup of Nations. That's just my opinion. It's just the way things go. So I do think that he's committed to this season with Napoli, and then we'll see from there.
Absolutely. And Farooq, I'd like to come to you because you always follow Osimhen and whatever he is about. So do you actually think he will spring for a team like Chelsea or Man United? Because we've seen a lot of players go there and, their career goes down the drain. Do you think he'll actually go to a club like that?
Actually, the thing about United for now, and I will say, I think whoever goes to United now is just, he has, his hand full, even if you're good, you're bad. So that's just the thing. I mean, you can see Bruno Fernandes literally, he is the highest scoring midfielder in the history of Premier League. Like, I mean, in a single season. But then still they come and ask, oh, he's not a leader, he's not a captain. I mean, come on, the man is doing his job, What else do you want? So I think, with United, there's just no win. They win in there, and especially, considering the shenanigans going on around there. About Chelsea, that's an interesting one, honestly, because I think everyone knows how highly I rate Mauricio Pochettino. I think, having a player like Osimhen honestly can transform his team, because basically, like, Jackson doesn't know where the post is, man. I mean, if his life depended on it, he will die, man, honestly. But again, Chelsea also has their course with strikers, since they had Didier Drogba. I think the only striker who's actually partially succeeded there has only been, what's he called? The Brazilian Spanish striker from Atletico Madrid. I forgot his name.
Morata.
No.
Diego Costa.
Exactly, Costa. Costa has only been the striker who has,
Costa.
Partially succeeded, because like Morata was an absolute flop as well. So that's the thing, strikers going to Chelsea also is not something that I'm too keen on, honestly. But if there's anyone I would back, to break the curse, I think it's Didier Drogba loving Victor Osimhen, man. I think he might be the guy to just, eventually break the number 9 curse at Chelsea. But then,
I mean, why am I not surprised? That's the only guy you back.
Yeah, honestly, man, if there's someone I was going to put my money on, it's going to be, Victor he's something else, man. I mean, even Rafael knows, like, they paid around more than 60 million euros to price him away from Lille. Like, I mean, that's a lot of money for an unknown entity, Like, that's right. How much and the thing about Osimhen is that, even if he doesn't give you the goals, like, okay, he's not a playmaker like Benzema or anything, but, like, he's a hard worker. Like, he's basically a headless chicken that knows how to score, So that's the good thing about it. So, I mean, Victor, like, you don't lose anything. Like, even if he doesn't get the goals, like, the all-round performance is always there as well. So, well, obviously, the ultimate destination, is always, the White House, in the middle of Spain.
Well, I mean, listen, either way, he's going to get what he wants. I think playing in I think he enjoys playing at Napoli, enjoys playing in Italy. But I do believe that here in Naples, the fans really, when they see you as like when you're a good player, you come and you're a player of Osimhen's caliber. You become more than just a player. You become a son of the city. You become a god. Look at Maradona. What happened with him, and players that have come and gone are similar. Not quite to the stature, but Dries Mertens is beloved in that city. So is Kalidou Koulibaly. So is Edinson Cavani. To an extent, so is Insigne. But Hamsik, Marek Hamsik, even Jorginho. I mean, even the fans in Naples adore Jorginho because he adores us. So Osimhen coming out, especially in that podcast, and saying the things that he said about Naples, it'll be tough for Naples to concede him to another club, but I guarantee you he won't get the same passion and reaction from the fans. Like this guy can't even go visit the murals of Maradona because he's afraid he'll be bombarded by the fans, which is true. He will. At least if he goes to London or Madrid, he could probably walk around the streets without, fear that, he'll be crowded by thousands of people as soon as someone recognizes him. And I'm not saying that, fans of these clubs aren't as passionate as Naples is because I'm sure they are, but it's just a culture. It's the culture, where I'm pretty sure he'll be able to like navigate the city. In Naples, you can't do that. You can't do that. So, there's a lot of different reasons why I know Osimhen wants to go. Plus, he wants to broaden his horizons. Why do you think he turned down the offer that he did from Saudi Arabia? Because he still has a lot to give, and he's got a lot to give in other places. And I would, at current moment, I would put Chelsea just slightly above Real Madrid in a destination, just because of how Drogba was his idol growing up, and he's very similar to his style. And he was on John Obi Mikel's podcast. I mean, it's funny. I told my son, who's 12, very smart, very, very smart. I said, hey, Osimhen was on John Obi Mikel's podcast. You want to hear it? He goes, he's off to Chelsea. I said, come on. That's what you're going to tell me? He's off to Chelsea? I said, wait till June. We'll talk about it then. But yeah, I mean, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just was gonna, reaffirm that again, like, back in Nigeria as well, like honestly, like, the two London clubs, like Chelsea and Arsenal, like Chelsea because of, Chelsea because of DJ, and obviously like John B. Mikel played for a while there as well. And before Arsenal, like there is a huge, because I can bet you, if you ask an average Nigerian in Nigeria who is the best player to ever play, he most likely would say Thierry Henry before he even thinks of,
yeah.
It's a huge love for Thierry Henry there as also because of that. Like a lot of young Nigerians, like myself, like we really, really, we're more exposed to Chelsea and Arsenal. So because of this, I think like the two London clubs are way ahead of even, Real Madrid or Manchester United if, they're on the table. So I totally agree with you, Rafael. Like London is looking like, the next destination. Maybe Arsenal, if they can, pull a deal together as well.
If he goes to Arsenal, we'll have problems because Napoli fans and Arsenal fans don't get on very well. We'll have a lot of problems. I'd rather him go to Chelsea. It's fine. I just hope that if he goes to Chelsea, he doesn't bomb like the transfers that have gone there. I mean, they're playing a lot better now, but I mean, what a mess that was, huh? What a mess that was. But I do, again, he's the type of player that, he's not going to fall into the trap of, going to a place and completely bombing. I think he's that guy that gives you, if not 100%, 99.8, every game, injured or not, he will fight for a ball. He will fight for a call. He'll run to that goal. And another thing I really admire about Osimhen is he's so unselfish. He is the most unselfish striker I've ever seen play for Napoli. I mean, if he has the opportunity to score, he'll take it. And if he feels like he has an opportunity to score and he doesn't get the ball, he'll complain a little bit, but he gets over it really quick and just keeps on going, business as usual. And once he sees an opening to where he knows, okay, I could either take this shot, but this guy's got a better shot at scoring. Case in point, look up the match winner against Atalanta. He'll set up the goal. He'll get the assist. He wants an assist just as much as he wants a goal because the team is going to win. And that's an invaluable player in my opinion. So wherever he goes, they're getting They're getting a future top 3 Ballon d'Or, in my opinion. 100%.
I mean, that's pretty high praise.
He finished 8th. He finished 8th this season. You
I mean,
know,
I do
there's-
agree with you that
It's
it's probably
Victor
not gonna.
Osimhen, and he's supposed to be top 2 or top 1. Like, I mean, Rafael is.
I mean, this is not the
Yeah.
Nigerian Ballon d'Or, Farouk, so you cannot handle it.
But still, like,
well,
there's not a
he's
lot
gonna
of
get
strikers
he'll get
Ballon d'Or.
African Player of the Year. I don't think African Player of the Year, right? The last African Player of the Year that was a Nigerian, I think he said was like back in 1998.
Yeah,
So
I think it
mean,
was Kanu was the last one, actually.
yeah.
I think
Yeah.
Kanu was the last one.
Mhm.
Absolutely. Before we head into the lineups, Tase Lupa has a question for you, Rafael. So he asks, Victor Osimhen's injury record and whatnot. So how long is he out for the AFCON as well? Besides the price tag and the injury record, I think he will be a better fit than Mbappe for Real Madrid.
Ooh. So what was the question? How long is he out?
Yeah, he's basically asking if the AFCON happening every year, and if along with this injury
AFCON
record,
is
is that
every
a
2
big
years,
worry
I
for
think.
any potential team?
No, AFCON is what, every 2 or 3 seasons,
Every
isn't
2
it?
years.
Every 2 years,
Yeah.
and sometimes it's played in the summer, depending on where the host is in Africa. You know, it just so happens that Africa is it's a big desert, right? It's a hot country. It's a hot continent. And if you're gonna play in southern or mid Africa, it's got to be in the winter because it's too damn hot. But I do believe there are some tournaments that end up in the summertime. Wasn't the last one in the summer? I'm
Actually,
not
so
100%.
what happened actually, Rafael, there is like actually, normally it's played every 2 years, and normally like traditionally there's always been in the winter months, as you said, because like Africa is a quite hotter content compared to the rest. And so because it's always been in the winter, but then what happened was like they switched to play every 3 years, and then
Gotcha.
COVID happened. And then again, like when they switched to play every 3 years, like they actually switched to, okay, we're gonna play in the summer, but every 3 years. Like, but
Got
then
it.
COVID happened, and then like it just messed everything up. And then also like the organizers of the AFCON, like CAF, it's like the shittiest thing. Like we 4 here will run a better show than they're doing. So like even who's gonna be the host is not sure. Today it's these guys, and then you all of a sudden see the tournament is played somewhere else eventually. So yeah, it's a bit of a mess. But at least for now, like for the foreseeable future, it's just gonna be back to what it was in the past of being run in the winter every 2 years, and it runs from January to Feb, if I'm not mistaken, the end of January to the the first weeks of Feb as well. If your player goes all the way, obviously, but if they don't, so they come back home soon.
And I have no problem with it. I mean, I'm all for international football. I'm a very big fan of it. And, you can't help where you are in the world, right? This is just how it is. You can't play the tournaments in the summer. So when are you going to play them, right? You got to play them during the winter. And, teams that take on African players, they have to understand that there's the aspect of the AFCON. So when Osimhen leaves, that's what happens. To the destination that he's at. That's one of the things you have to take into consideration. You're going to lose him during the month of January and maybe into early February, but you'll have him back before the Champions League starts again. So it's one of those things where it's annoying, it's a nuisance, and the fact that he was out injured for as much as he was really kind of adds to that a little bit. But we're gonna have to figure out a way to go on without Osimhen for a month, and not only Osimhen but Anguissa too with Cameroon, and we had to do it when we had Fawzi Ghulam. We had to do it when we had Kalidou Koulibaly. We had to deal with it. Adam Munas, we had to deal with it, and we've done it before. It's nothing new, but it's a blow. But at least we have Raspadori and Simeone to cover, and I definitely last season when Osimhen was out injured for the spell that he was out, I think it was like 8 games. We won every game. This season a little different. We struggled a little bit, but I don't think it had anything to do with the quality of the players up front. It had everything to do with who was our manager. So we've proven before that we can win if Osimhen's not playing. That's fine. We can do that again under Walter Mazzarri. But yeah, I mean, the AFCON is what it is. And hey, I'll quote a journalist that I read when you know the Napoli owner came out last season and said something about African players. Don't buy African players. You know, that's just the way it is. You don't want to deal with it. Don't buy an African player. That's just how it is. You know, but the thing is the quality of the African player, especially now. I'm not saying that we haven't had quality African players because we have all through the history of time, but now there's so many great African players. You've seen, an African team in the semifinal of the World Cup finally, and I think going forward we're going to see more of that, and I think it's wonderful. And the African Cup of Nations need to be taken seriously. You understand that when Koulibaly won the AFCON and came back to Naples, he was proud to have captained Senegal to an African Cup of Nations, right? I liken it to when Maradona won the World Cup, came back and won the Scudetto. I liken it to like any player that wins internationally and is happy comes back and brings that positivity to a team. So if Victor Osimhen could go to AFCON and win the whole thing and then come back to Naples and finish out his season and possibly his Napoli career with the AFCON with him, he'll have won the Scudetto for Naples first time in 33 years, and he'll have won the AFCON for Nigeria first time in who knows how long. And that only breeds positivity in my opinion. So I'm all for it. I hope they go as far as they can and comes back with much stronger, ready to fight.
Absolutely, that's a great point. You just bring back that winning mentality, and which is what you want, especially heading into the later stages of the Champions League and whatnot.
Exactly. Right. Absolutely.
So yeah, so Rafael, we have a bunch of injuries. We're missing Vinicius. We're missing a couple of players in the middle of the park as well. We're missing Kamavinga, Tchouaméni. In defense, we don't have Militao as usual from last time, and Koto as well is missing. So, do you think you guys are actually gonna change any of your lineups considering all of the injuries? Maybe thinking you have a tactical advantage anywhere.
No, I think the lineup is going to stay the same because our best lineup can beat any team in the world, in my opinion. With the right person steering the ship, obviously. With Rudy Garcia, we couldn't beat, Empoli. But if we play to our best of our ability with the lineup that we normally play with, obviously without Oliveira or Mairui, we have to make shift the left back position. So that might be a target that Real Madrid wants to expose there. Um, Aside from that, I think we play the full 11. Meret in goal, Di Lorenzo on the right, Rahmani and Natan in the middle. Obviously, like I said, Ron Jesus on the left. We have um, uh, Zielinski, and Lobotka in the midfield, and then Politano, Kvaratskhelia, and Osimhen. That's the 11. I think that's pretty cut and dry. I would really have liked for Bellingham's injury to be a little more severe to he missed this game. Um, and like I said, with Bellingham on the pitch, I don't think Napoli have a chance to win the game. Maybe a draw, maybe, but we'll see. But I think Napoli don't make any changes to their approach. I think they have to play the game that won them the title.
Absolutely. And Farooq, so last time round, it was all up to Rudiger's tactics, antics, to actually stop Osimhen. He was the only man standing against him, and obviously he has to start. But then he needs some help, right? Do you think Nacho can actually start this game to help him out, or Alaba walks right back into the lineup?
Yeah, I think Alaba has been rested and he's gotten his rest, so I think he slots right alongside Rudiger in this game again. This is the way I see, because as Carlos said, like it was the decision either to rest him or to rest Rudiger, and then they made a decision to rest Alaba because they needed the aerial presence of Rudiger for the last game. So I just think it's more of the same for and Rudiger, and David Alaba replaces Nacho in the CB position.
And of course, we have no other choices in terms of wing backs. So we have Mendy, and realistically, we have Carvajal as well. And then in midfield, do you see any changes more?
I mean, I think Ancelotti in his press conference also said that he's going to give priority to Fran Garcia for tomorrow. So I don't really know if Mendy's the one starting or probably Fran comes off on as a sub. But in the midfield, I think it's pretty interesting because like we got a lot of people out, right? We don't really have Modric, Tchouaméni, Camavinga, like you already pointed out. So I think it's probably going to go with Cruz, Valverde, and probably Bellingham, Ceballos, maybe. I don't know if you're just throwing names out there. But yeah, honestly, for me, I think this game is pretty a lot more important for Napoli than it is for us because we're already through the knockouts and we need like a point to finish top. So the way I see it, if it was up to me, I would probably rest everybody and just bring on the Castilla guys. But Theo Zidane is in there, maybe play him. Everybody will melt. That will be a sight to see. So, but yeah, that's not going to happen under Ancelotti. So I think it's going to be the senior players playing in the midfield and attack.
Right. So no changes here. Do you think Ceballos is fit enough to play, or we have
No,
to go
I
back to a
don't.
4-3-3?
I don't think Ancelotti is going back to a 4-3-3. I think it's still going to be like the 4-4-2 diamond thing that he's doing. So for me, I think if he can't play Ceballos, then he's probably going to be, he's going to innovate and do some tactical things that, Farouk doesn't think he has in the box. But probably, push Bellingham and bring in Brahim and play him at the tip. So, I think the Castilla guys who've been called up are probably going to come off the bench. I don't really expect them to be starting or anything. So if he starts Mario Martin, I think I'll be pretty happy.
But then you mentioned about the fact that Brahim still didn't like train once.
Yeah. The thing is, like, Brahim didn't train yesterday, but he's trained today. So I don't know because he didn't really have an injury, right? He had an upset stomach, so probably the Brahim has a propensity of not finishing 90 minutes. We already talked about this before as well. So start him, play him like 50, 60 minutes, and then change something. And I think Brahim already has a good record against Napoli. Probably
Very
Rafa
good.
like bad memories from
Just going to
Champions League
point
last
out to that.
season.
Yeah, I was just going to point out to that. Brahim has a great record against Napoli. He really did a good job against them in the Champions League quarterfinal last season. Beat them down at the Maradona 4-0 in Serie A. It was the worst. Funny, we had the best season we've ever had. And in the same season, we've had the worst loss that we've ever had in Sao Paulo in the era of the owner, ADL. So it was all due to Brahim Diaz and that Milan side. So I actually have a projected lineup here from Real Madrid, and he's in it. So I think you'll see him play. I think Ancelotti realizes that Diaz knows Napoli a bit, so if he's an option, he'll be on there. So
yeah, and I think we have a lot of injuries, so probably him starting wouldn't be a surprise. Like you guys mentioned, probably Sebastian didn't fit for a full 90, so maybe he brings him in. Joselu Rodrigo up front.
Right. So it's going to be pretty much instead of a diamond, it's going to be a box similar to what we saw at Cadiz, the pivot of Valverde and Cruz, and then Brahim and Bellingham up top.
I think the thing is like this, we tend to get too lost up in like, if it's going to be a diamond or a box or whatever. The thing is like we already know how Real Madrid defend is going to be in a 4-4-2, flat 4-4-2. And when it's attacking, you really know where everybody's going to position themselves. I think Brahim did well last season against Napoli, playing off of the right. So with Bellingham there, probably push Brahim to the right side of the pitch, and have him play there in those half spaces and exploit whatever Napoli's missing, especially the fact that they don't really have a proper left back. And our attack is like it gets lopsided without with only Carvajal on the right and without Vinicius Rodriguez and doing the job on his right. So we could probably have Brahim playing off there.
Absolutely. And yeah.
So what's the situation with Rodrigo though? Like, is he like they mentioned?
Yeah, the thing is like Rodrigo has knee issues, right? He wasn't supposed to start on over the weekend, but because of the Brahim thing, he had to start. He played well. I think for me, I was having this conversation with somebody on Reddit yesterday, and the fact is like for me, I wouldn't want Ancelotti to be playing Rodrigo or Fede Valverde, or Bellingham, because Bellingham is still coming off a shoulder injury. We aren't really sure how fit he is. With Rodrigo, we know he has this knee injury that's been carrying for a long time. And with Fede, I think he's played like almost every minute of the season. So all these guys are like increased risk, and I don't really want Ancelotti to be risking further injuries. And like I said, this game isn't important for us. So for me personally, I wouldn't want them to play tomorrow. I think Rafa would be pretty happy if they didn't play. But I think with Ancelotti, I think Farouk has the right of it. We know what he's gonna do. So the seniors are going to play. The older you are, the more minutes you get.
Yeah, I guess that just leaves the goalkeeper spot, which also we don't have any options, right? Kepa is still out.
Yeah, Kepa is still out. I think Ancelotti came out and said as long as Kepa is back, he's gonna. When Kepa is fit, he's playing. A lot of people kind of got angry about it because I think Luna has done a decent enough job. I heard some reports from some Spanish media saying that the players weren't happy about it because they didn't really like the statement that Ancelotti made in public. But the thing is, we know Ancelotti, and I think personally the club has some doubts about what kind of form Courtois comes back when he does come back. So I think having Kepa as a backup is better than having Luna.
Absolutely. And we've had this issue, Rafael, for all this while. We always have to win. It's Real Madrid. It's in our DNA. We can't really give a lot of minutes to our young players or our academy players. How are you guys managing it? Do you feel like you guys have any exciting talents coming up at the academy?
The problem is I think the exciting talents that have come up already and that are either on the squad or loaned out, I think that's where it ends. Napoli, to me, don't have many exciting prospects in their youth. That's one thing that they actually don't pay too much attention to, and I wish they would, because for the brilliant scouting that they have, and in my opinion, Napoli are second to none when it comes to scouting talent from outside. They bring in players and turn them into world-class athletes. I mean, they don't have the same abilities in the youth squad. They're in Primavera 2. They're not even in the Serie A Primavera, which is the youth division. They got relegated last season. They only missed relegation the season before that on penalties to Genoa. And traditionally, they're not a good youth team. They do produce some talent. Right now, you have a couple of players scattered throughout Serie A, Serie B, playing on first teams. And on our squad is Gianluca Gaetano, who is a product. Actually, Zanoli also is, and Zerbin. They're on our squad right now, but aside from that, I think our next best prospect is a guy named Colisacco, who was in the Milan youth system, got signed to Napoli's youth system, and really did well. Did well with us in preseason as well, but got loaned out to I believe a Serie B squad. There's another guy named Michael Folaruncio who's playing with Verona right now, and another guy, Walid Kadera, who was with us, and he's actually on the Morocco national team. I don't know if he went to the World Cup or not, but he's on loan to Frosinone as well. So the exciting youth players that we have been called up already. There's not a single name that I can think of right now that is a talent from the youth squad. So we rely on talent, scouting talent from outside, from Turkey or Georgia, or even within Italy and within Spain. But I mean, that's we're really limited in that aspect.
I think that's an issue that's pervasive throughout Italian football. I think none of the big clubs really have this youth policy to help bring players forward. And I think Italian football on the international level is kind of suffering for it.
With that being said, Milan did just field a 15-year-old. Right? He's now the youngest player to. What's that?
Is that even legal?
Is it legal? I mean, he'll be 16 in March, so maybe, I don't know.
They had to get a special permission to field them. Actually,
they have to get a permission slip from their parents.
Well, actually, I kind of think the problem with the Italian national team is not about lack of talent. I think it's about the fact that they don't have attackers. Because, for example, you got one of the most promising defenders in Italy right now is Calvadini from Atlanta. I think he's 20 or 19. He came from the Primavera of Atlanta as well. You look at even from Inter as well. What's the name of the guy with white hair? DiMarco. DiMarco basically was a fan who was watching with the Culver suit, and he's basically
Farouk, I get that, but the thing is there's no real pathway for Italian in Italian football for youth players to come into the first team. Like, the thing is, like, you were talking about DeMarco, but did DeMarco go from the Primavera to directly to the first team? He did not. He had to go on a ton of loans before he even got the chance. But I think in Spanish football,
but that's the point. But
the
because the
thing is,
point is,
like, in
even when,
Spanish
for
football,
example, Barella, for example, as well, like he didn't come from Inter, like he came from I forgot the name of the team he came from, but anyways, like he went there, he played a couple of years, and then he moved as well. You can look at Sandro Tonali as well. Even Verratti as well. Like I do think they produce players, but the problem is that they don't produce attackers anymore. That's just the issue, I think, because in my
I think
opinion,
the
like,
thing is, like, they don't really have a proper pathway for these players to get opportunities at a higher level, to be exposed to a higher level of competition that helps them develop their skills, and in turn helps Italian football. I think when you compare to like the likes of Spain or Germany, these guys really have a pathway. At Real Madrid, probably we shouldn't be talking about developing youth talents because we have our own issues. But the thing is, like, other clubs in Spain, when you look at Barcelona, you don't really have to admire them the way they have brought their players, forward. Even at Real Madrid, even though we don't really have there's not a youth policy that I would like be proud of, but the fact is, like, we are fourth in terms of players from our own academy playing for our minutes played, across the big five leagues in Europe. So I think when you compare it to teams like Spain and Germany, Italy tends to lag behind. So that was my point, and I think these teams have benefited from it, because like Spain and Germany, even though Spain is like going through lean years and Germany is probably in a bad patch right now, but even then these guys have had successes. And whereas like Italian football, they won the World Cup in 2006, and then ever since then I think it's been on a gradual decline. And like for the powerhouses of the world football ones to miss the World Cup, I think it's pretty shocking, right?
Twice in a row is even more shocking.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, no, I agree with what you're saying. I do think that there is talent in the youth system in Italy widespread. It's just in Napoli there's not. But lately, and I don't have the exact outcomes, but I know that they won. I think they won the under-17 Euro. They went to the final of the under-20 World Cup. I know that they're actually very there is a lot of very good talent out there for Italy, but like Farouk said, the strikers, or maybe you said it, Mo, the strikers is that's a big issue in Italy. There's not a lot of pure number 9 strikers like a Christian Vieri or like a Luca Toni, what he did, even in Inzaghi, where like you can he's a number 9, there's not a lot of good ones. It's very rare, very few. That's something that Italy as a whole needs to work on for sure. But as far as the team goes, I think they're very talented, and I think they can do well in the Euros if they really kind of stick together the way they did in 2021 under Mancini. And plus, they have Spalletti, who is a manager that's going to get the best attacking. He's going to get the best attack out of the team, and he's going to have these players playing till they can't move anymore, and that's something good for Italy.
So yeah,
just one question I want to ask. I think Golini was the one who played in goal for Napoli over the weekend. So do you expect him to
Yes.
start, or is it going to be Meret?
Well, so Meret is fit and available. That was the decision that Mazzari made, was to play Golini. I think that decision came because Golini knew Atalanta. He was with them for quite a bit of time. And Atalanta haven't really changed. They may have changed players, but they haven't really changed their system of play and how they play. And he knows Gasperini very well. So I think that was semi-tactical from Golini. Golini did play against Empoli, the game that we lost under Rudy Garcia's final game. But that was because Meret was out with an injury. Meret is fit now and was on the bench for the game against Atalanta at the weekend. I do see Meret playing. I just think that the experience in the Champions League is going to outweigh Golini's. Mind you, if you're to have a backup keeper, I think Golini is a perfect backup goalkeeper because he can start on half the teams in Italy as well, like big teams anyway. But I think it's going to be Meret. I do. I just think he has just a little more experience in this, field, in this, high pressure environment than Golini does. So I think it's going to be him.
fair enough. Yeah, let's go to the predictions, guys. We've been rambling on and on for a while now.
Yeah.
So let's go with you, Rafael. What do you think is going to be the outcome?
I get to go first, huh? All right. I'm going to say 2-2. I think despite the injuries that Real Madrid face, they're going to score goals on Napoli. I think Napoli need to really work on restoring the defense that they had last season. Not that they're not a good defense, but I think that Real Madrid is just a class above, and will find a way to score, whether it's Rodrigo with an injury or Bellingham with an injury or Valverde with a outside the box long range shot. They're going to find the net. So 2 goals for them. But I do think Napoli are eager for this match, and their away form has been far much better than their home form this season. So I think that and the pressure may be on for Napoli, but the realistic scenario here is that Napoli could also lose this match and still make the knockout stages of the Champions League. If Union Berlin could find a way to win against Braga, Napoli could lose against Real Madrid and they'll be in the knockouts. And all we really need is a point to seal our knockout stage, because if Braga don't get a result, or if Braga don't know, I think if Braga tie and we tie, I think we're also in the next round. So there's a lot of scenarios here where Napoli can reach the next round and render the last game against Braga, pointless. But like you guys said, Real Madrid don't really have, they only need 1 point to secure the group, and even if they don't win today or tomorrow, they'll secure it against Union Berlin in the last game of the knockouts. So I think they pretty much wrapped up the groups, the top spot of the group. So I think with the pressure being off Real Madrid, Napoli could really, possibly come out with a result here. I'm not going to go ahead and be bold and say they'll win, but I think a 2-2 is sufficient in my opinion.
And where are the goals coming from? For Napoli?
Osimhen is going to bag one. It's going to be Osimhen and Kvaratskhelia.
Australia, yeah.
Oh yeah.
Osimhen,
Kvaratskhelia.
go and hug Guti on the sideline. So.
Yeah, don't forget. I don't think Osimhen was available for the Real Madrid game for the first game.
I think he was there.
He was there.
Was he there?
Yeah.
Oh, he was there. He just he wasn't.
It was a Rudiger masterclass.
He didn't. Yes, it was a Rudiger master. You're right. Yeah, that's why I didn't remember him being there, is because Rudiger was just all over him.
Yeah, he was hidden in Rudiger's pocket, so you didn't get to see it.
I think he. Listen, the mask is off, so the pressure's off. I think he's gonna get his goal at the Bernabeu.
The mask is off and the powers are off too.
I don't know. Not against Atalanta at the weekend. It didn't happen there. So we'll see, guys. We'll see. I'm hoping for a draw. But listen, when you're playing Real Madrid, you expect to go in there. You expect to lose. That's just the way it is. So I will be very happy with a draw. Very happy.
All right. Farooq, you want to go next?
Yeah, I mean, I'll go with Rafael as well. It's just a draw. A 2-2. I think it's a fair result. We get the point we need to go through. They get a point that all but secures their passage to the next round as well. And where I will disagree with him is when you say it's Kvara and Osimhen, but I will go with it's just the Victor show. The mask is off. The rebound Osimhen.
Two goals Osimhen.
Finding out of Tony Rudiger's pocket, to dazzle the people in the White House and make them understand, the value of a true number 9. Basically, just an audition for what's going to happen over the past next 10 years if he joins Real Madrid. A preview, or a trailer, if you want to call it that.
He looks good in white, that is for sure.
Definitely, man.
Farooq should know, he's always partying with him,
Oh man.
I'll go
Yeah,
next.
personally, I don't really know, because the thing is, like, I think we won't have the same intensity that Napoli does, because it's an important game for Napoli, no matter how Raf tries to spin it, but it's still an important game for Napoli. So I wouldn't be surprised if Napoli pull off an upset, and Farouk gets his wish, and Victor Osimhen scores 2 goals, and Jose Lu answers with one back for us. But the point where I would disappoint Farouk is I don't really think Osimhen is coming to Madrid. So
Yeah,
Sad
of course
times.
I know, but the point is, a boy can dream, and as in Turkish they say, you said like like the food of a poor man is hope. So don't take away the hope from him and let me keep dreaming.
I mean, I don't really think that applies to you, but it's for a poor man, not you.
Fair point. For me, I'm gonna be optimistic, guys. I feel like Rudiger again. He's gonna have the number on Osimhen, like it or not. And
I mean, how do you guys think if Ancelotti pulls off a surprise and doesn't play Carvajal and Rudiger? He'll probably bring on Lucas and starts Alaba and Nacho together at the back.
I think Rudiger will be a very big surprise, but I think for Carvalho, honestly, like I kind of feel like he's not gonna play. Like I just personally have that feeling that he's not gonna play. But then the issue also is like playing. If Frank Garcia starts on the other hand as well, maybe that forces the hand to play Carvajal. I don't know, to kind of like a check and balance kind of thing.
Mhm.
I don't know, but I
You also
wouldn't be
have to keep
surprised
in
if
mind the
Lucas
fact
plays.
that I think the weekend game is against Granada, so you just have to be careful there. And Girona drew yesterday, so we finally have the lead. I think it's important to keep that going as well.
Exactly, that's the point, because as we mentioned in the previous, I think the post match, the point is, the Champions League basically is done till February. The point now is that we have to be able to, gain the points that the opponents have dropped, and Granada's dropped the points. We're back to the top finally again. We need to stay there. Because in my personal opinion, I don't think Granada is is a real contender. I think they're more of title pretenders in that sense. So we need just to be wary of what's going to happen or what isn't happening. So we have to try to maintain as much. We have to try to gain as much points as we can, and if that means resting our key man, definitely.
And yeah, for me, I'm just gonna say it's gonna be a 1-0, especially because it's Lunin's last game, probably for the foreseeable future. So in order to please his future employers, he's probably gonna have the game of his life.
I don't know why the whole Lunin thing became a big drama, honestly. I really just don't know. I honestly, I'm thinking, is it reincarnation of Thibaut Courtois? Did Alisson all of a sudden transform into, I don't know, man. I mean, I don't get what the force is all about. It's not like he's been extraordinary. He's just been basic, nothing more than that. I mean, come on.
The thing is that basic, regular, lesser known goalkeepers usually tend to have Gianluigi Buffon performances against Napoli. So I would expect that too. So maybe I should change it to 2-0 Real Madrid, just because you just said that Lunin is he's going to be up for it. No, I'm going to keep it at 2-2. But I do want you to, I do want you to, if he has a worldie, then I'm not surprised at all. That's just the way it is.
Fair enough. All right. So I guess that wraps up our preview for today. Do you guys have anything else to add?
No, man. I just want to thank you, Jacob. For the good job that you're doing today.
Yes.
You
Thank
went to
you
the
very
office,
much.
sacrificed a lot. So
Yeah, I'm actually expecting in the office. Someone turned off the AC as well. So it's India. It's hot here inside. Oh man. Anyways, let's wrap it up. Thank you guys. I see there's 6 of you here in the chat already. So if you're new here, don't forget to subscribe and hit the like button as well, because we really do need the likes. And stay tuned for the post-match and the watch-along. So Doris is going to be doing a watch-along for the Napoli game. Stay tuned for that. Keep her company, crack some good jokes. And stay tuned for the post-match as well. Along with that, do check out our Instagram and our Twitter and stuff, because we are going to be putting out match day footage. Sid is going to bring you all of that stuff from the Bernabeu. So stay tuned for that. And yeah, I hope, Rafael, also that we see you on good terms also next time we meet.
Absolutely. This has been a lot of fun. You guys are really great. And I would love to come back on even when we don't play, just to talk about anything. I mean, maybe if we want to do a Classico, I can pull my friend next to me, and we can both come on here and talk smack to you guys. But no, good luck tomorrow. I think it's going to be a great game either way, and good luck the rest of the season. And I look forward to this game, and I really appreciate you guys letting me on to talk about it, because like I said before, meeting people this way is something that I don't take for granted at all, and making some connections is always great. So
And Raffaele,
appreciate
are
you
you gonna
guys.
be doing a post match for the Napoli game as well?
I should be, yes. I've got some equipment issues right now I'm trying to work through, but I should definitely be posting something somewhere. Check out Far From Vesuvius on all of your podcast platforms, wherever you get your podcast, because that's probably where it will end up. Or you can visit the Napoli Rant on Instagram or X, which is Twitter. I call it Twitter, but check those out, because we'll definitely have some post match stuff in both of those platforms.
Yeah, you heard it, folks. We have all the links down in the description. Do give Raffaele some love as well. So yeah, what do you say, Farouk and Mo? Let's go.
Hala Madrid!
Yeah, before I say Hala Madrid, Jacob really looked like dropping some dimes, with his whole rap thing. But yeah, Hala Madrid.
Hello, Madrid. Raffaele, you can feel free to say whatever comes to mind.
Ciao, guys. Forza Napoli sempre.
Excellent.